What is going on, Dragon Ball fans? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball fan manga review, where today we're going to be reviewing the fan manga entitled Dragon Ball Multiverse, which of course is a fan manga set within its own timeline involving characters from both Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. But the overall concept of Dragon Ball Multiverse involves fighters from different quadrants and parallel worlds in which come together for this grand multiverse battle to determine which universe and team is superior than the rest. And for many years now, I've been reviewing Dragon Ball fan concepts and mangas, so today we're going to be diving further into this manga chapter to further understand the gravity and nature of Dragon Ball Multiverse. And with that, we begin Dragon Ball Multiverse with a very familiar scene in seeing two fists about to collide, in which one of them has resemblance of a glove, while the other is very similar to a character we've seen before, in which we see a massive collision occur as the two fists collide, and seeing characters like Piccolo, Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, and Nappa, alongside Frieza, his father King Cold, and his brother Cooler, looking on as they see Broly colliding against none other than Super Vegito, as we see both Vegeta and Kakarot say it's incredible, such power, as we see Broly and Vegito collide head-on, as we see Vegito cock back for his Big Bang Kamehameha, alongside Broly sticking out his hand and unleashing one of his Omega Busters, and in which we see how Vegito unleashes his Kamehameha, in which we see Gohan telling Piccolo to get behind everyone, alongside Goku having to transform into a Super Saiyan, everyone having to throw their guards up as Vegito finally unleashes his Big Bang Kamehameha, and the gravity of this blast is so large that we get to see all the other characters, including Cell Jr., Majin Buu, Babidi, alongside the Namekians and Frieza's family, get blown back by the immense force of Super Vegito's Big Bang Kamehameha alongside Broly's Omega Buster, and from there we get to see how the entire arena is pretty much left in ruins, as we even see Majin Buu there saying gigantic, as we later find out that this is only something that happens further within the manga, as we see a little clock at the bottom say, how could such a scenario be, you may wonder? Well, in order for us to tell you this, let's go back in time. And the manga chapter starts off exactly where we all assumed it would, with a mysterious spaceship having to appear in the middle of space, and in which at the bottom it says, parallel universe number 50984879236774, we have arrived, deploying scanners, in which we are introduced to some unknown characters, in which one of them says Earth again, with the other having to say detected, all at the same place, with one of the characters having to say get the shuttle ready, are the Namekians ready to go, with the other characters having to reply by saying there is a Kami's place here, we must go and check it out. So these mysterious characters head on over and they find Kami's lookout, and in which as we pan back to Kami's lookout, we see Mr. Popo, Piccolo, and Dende standing there, as Popo says, how is this ship able to land here? Only few are authorized, with Piccolo having to say they are authorized, Nameks are always welcome into this place, in which Piccolo's assumption of Namekians were correct, as we see Namekians land on Kami's lookout, in which one of them says, hello all of you, with Piccolo having to say, who are you? And that's when the little being says, we are Namekians from another universe, we've come to your world with the help of Virga's technology, and in which he further explains in saying, there isn't just one universe, but many of them, and each of them follows its own path, but all with the same situations and the same choices, so they are all just alike. Just a few unexpected events make a universe slightly different from another. For example, in one universe, the sky of your planet could be red, in another, it could be conquered by aliens and other species who live on it, in which he also goes on ahead to explain another example. In one of these universes, there are only one of the Virgas discovered out of luck, a technology that allows us to travel from one universe to another, in which he even says the gods decided, in which references to the Supreme Kais of the world, that the universes should be closed off from one another, but they permitted that one unique event across the universe does take place, and the Vargas made friends with the Namekians in order to create a gigantic tournament between the fighters of all universes. The winner will get 3 wishes from the Dragon of Namek, in which one of the Namekians that arrived had followed by saying the Dragon Balls of the other universe's Namekians will be used to resurrect the victims of the fights. In addition to the prize, warriors usually look for a new challenge. This is the unique chance, and with no risk, our question is whether or not you want to enter. So these Nordic beings came down and they wanted to offer Piccolo, alongside many of the other fighters of this universe, a chance to compete in this gigantic tournament in order to have 3 wishes be granted, and of course, according to the Supreme Kais of all the universes, they've agreed to host one gigantic tournament to see which one is going to stand at the pinnacle of being the best, in which Piccolo says, I'm suspicious, but Son Goku will want to enter for sure, in which one of the Namekians says, your most powerful warriors are all on this planet, we can send them a message. And later on, we see see the gathering of pretty much all the fighters on Earth, in which we see then it says, so then less than an hour later everyone gathers, and we see how Oob is there, Goku is there, in which Goku goes on further to say Oob will be able to finally test his powers without any risk. There are too many restrictions here. This is a super chance, with Vegeta having to say, I don't trust that multiverse story at all, but there is no way that you're gonna host such a tournament without having me involved, and you're bound to get some surprises from me as well, in which we see Goten and Trunks there, and Goten says, we have a question, in which they say, can we also fight as a team, in which the Namekians say no, 1 versus 1, you lose if you can't fight for 30 seconds, or if you give up, weapons are allowed, and you must enter the ring alone, and there is no exterior elements that can help you, in which both Trunks and Goten laugh and says, we're fine with that, we're going to register Gotenks, he is among us, but you can't see him, so can we just arrive as visitors, in which they say, yes, viewers are greatly welcomed, and we do accept anybody. One fighter even registers his son who isn't even born yet. We don't care if you create this Gotenks just before the fight, just make sure it happens, in which Piccolo says, then I will come as a viewer, in which Gohan even says, I will come as a viewer as well, in which after one of the Namekians says, you are the 18th group who's entered, this will be your universe number, people who want to take part of the tournament, please enter the shuttle now, in which Vegeta is the first one to enter and saying no time to waste, and we see how Chi-Chi and Bulma are in the background saying good luck, and we see how everyone else saying no worries, there is nothing that can happen that the Dragon Balls cannot fix, in which the Namekian says there is no reason for anything bad to happen anyway, which gives us a weird suspicion as we take off from planet Earth, and we see how everyone else is inside, and Goku having to say, so will the trip take long, and one of the pilots having to say not at all, we will warp into the universe where the tournament is going to be taking place. It's a universe with no life at all, no risk to damage for any life forms at all, in which they go on ahead and use warp drive to arrive to the universe's destination. Now if you pay attention and look closely, you can see that the arena looks like a massive soup bowl. It's just a massive bowl in which there are many different levels of people and crowd members at the attendance, in which they look down upon the fighters, and we see how Gohan, Piccolo, Goku, Vegeta, Krillin, everyone enters the arena, with Krillin having to say it's huge, with Gohan having to say, so there should be competitors on the 17 spaces onto our left, and we see how they observe when they're looking around, and everyone just seems to be puzzled as to how many people are here, and the first person that Goku spots is Cell, and Cell recognizes Goku and saying you again, and Gohan is also puzzled by this because he also is looking at the very person that once threatened their planet, in which we see later on how Trunks manages to spot the Saiyans. Now the Saiyans do consist of Vegeta, Nappa, Raditz, and Kakarot, the original Goku who bumped his head, but ultimately when he came to Earth this time, he never bumped his head. So the original Kakarot that was sent to Earth is there, and we see how Trunks pretty much hops the guardrail and saying, let's go on ahead and check out the other groups, with Piccolo having to say he knows us, referencing to Cell, and saying he certainly killed us in his universe, and now he is the strongest one there, with Goku having to say, you may be right, but that's not what he was saying, look over there, and we see a polar opposite of Piccolo, Gohan, Trunks, and Goten. Everyone else is on the other side, in which later on Vegeta even spots the ancient Saiyans, in which we do see Vegeta, Grandpa Vegeta, and many others, in which Vegeta says, did you see that? In which Vegeta turns around and spotting the Saiyans, and then the next thing you know, we see how Frieza is also there, with Trunks having to say there are many monsters that our seniors fought in the past, with Goten having to point out and saying, look, there's Majin Buu, and we see Frieza, and he's there with King Cold, and he says, Saiyans again, and King Cold says, it looks like we're missing many universes, this scum should be eliminated everywhere, referencing to the Saiyans, and we see how even Gohan says, you're gonna go talk to the Saiyans, good luck, and we obviously can observe that many different parallel universes in this group have alternate endings. For example, Frieza was the strongest in his universe, we saw how Cell was able to destroy everyone in his universe, so everything varies depending on the universe. Now, we also get to see how Cooler arrives, and he says, all of this will change now that we found the Namekians that grant wishes instead of letting themselves be killed, in which he obviously is talking about the Dragon Balls, in which Cooler says, we're not gonna miss that opportunity, all the universes will be ours, and funny enough, we see how Goten and Trunks go to the Ancient Saiyans, and we see how Trunks says, "Hey, the king," in which the king, which is Vegeta, says, "Who dares call me like that?" And then that's when Trunks says, "Can I speak to you?" As we see Goten on the side also asking one of the Saiyans, "Hey, I'm looking for a guy among you." And then we see how Trunks says, "No, you're not stupid, you're father." And Vegeta looks a little puzzled because remember, this variation of Vegeta has never seen Trunks before, and we see how Goten says, "Hey, is he the father of Kakarot?" And we see how one of the Saiyans goes, "Kakarot? Never heard of him," referencing the fact that Goten is asking if in fact he is the father of Goku, in which we see Bardock among the Saiyans begin to emerge, and he says, "I had a son named Kakarot, but he is dead now," in which Goten says, "Whoa, when I see your face, I can tell it's you," and Bardock is like, "What are you talking about?" Remember, these Saiyans have never seen these kids before, but obviously Trunks and Goten, they're kind of trolling these dudes, and Vegeta, the King Vegeta, is like all pissed off. He's like, "What? You insult me, boy?" And Trunks having to say, "Hey, keep your cool, old man. In my dimension, you're the Prince of Saiyans, so where's your father?" In which Vegeta says, I don't want to know what happened in your place, but my father is the previous King Vegeta is here." And we see how in the background, the older Vegeta is still alive, and we see how Goten further explains to Bardock and saying, "Your wife is not far from here. Can I take a picture with you both?" Which is a little weird because everyone's trying to make acquaintances, and even we see Piccolo talking, in which Gohan says to Goku, "Dad, don't you want to meet your father?" And Goku having to say, "I don't know, he isn't my father to me," which is pretty much a burn. And we see how Piccolo says, "So twisted." And we see how Piccolo leaves to go talk to his people and saying, "Hello, Nail," which is pretty exciting to me because we see Nail and Piccolo talking, and that's when Nail says, "You are in a new group," in which Piccolo says, "A piece of advice, be careful with the Saiyans. In our world, they used to be slaughtering entire planets. They slaughtered even the Namekians." So it's pretty cool how everyone is pretty much leading off to their own groups, in which the Namekian says, "Don't worry, from now, they don't have any space technology," in which in their universe, in the Namekians universe, the Saiyans are very ancient beings. They're ancient creatures. They don't have advanced technology, in which they go off and say, "Frieza, we heard of him," as Piccolo asks, "But is there a Frieza in your world?" In which the Namekians say, "No, we heard of him while we were traveling away from our planet to free ourselves from cataclysm, but no worries though, all of his family that we see over there was killed by a guy named Kaioshin." So according to the Namekians in their universe, the Kaioshins were the one that killed Frieza's family, in which he also says, "Look over there, the same ones that are standing on that side." And we look and we see the Space One universe of organizers, which are the Kaioshins, and we see how every single Kaioshin that was originally eradicated by Kid Buu still alive. So they're also present a part of this tournament, in which later on we go back to Goten and Trunks, and they're still trolling their ancient ancestors and saying, "You know, you guys are our fathers and our grandfathers," and the older Vegeta says, "You brats are descendants in another universe," and Vegeta having to say, "What a shame, you're not even a true Saiyan," and Trunks having to say, "Oh please, either of us can wipe the floor with you all together, just give it up." So they pretty much shat all over the Saiyans and saying, "You know what, you guys may be all talking groups, but overall me and Goten here can wipe the entire floor with you guys," which I find to be classic Goten and Trunks. And we see how Piccolo says, "It seems to be very few universes that contains Namekians," in which is true because you don't really see Namekians in too many universes, in which one of the Namekians says, "That's because our people aren't very different from one place to another." But there is a variation in Universe 7, in which we see another Namekian says, "In order to stop Frieza, all the Namekians in this universe had to fuse into one." So every single Namekian from a singular planet came together in creating the ultimate Namekian. And they said he defeated Frieza easily, then traveled in space. He then killed a lizard monster that was threatening the universe, and then a pink demon. They both are here from other universes, by the way. I think he will win the tournament. So this singular warrior was able to destroy Frieza, assuming that there was a cell a part of that universe, and a pink demon known as Majin Buu. So this single Namekian has the strength of arguably Super Saiyan 3 Goku, if not stronger, in which later on we go back to Goten and Trunks, in which Trunks says, "Well, let's go back to our space," as they just got done trolling the other Saiyans, and Pan says, "Look," and she looks, and everyone is beginning to observe this massive block of ice that is dragged in, and someone says, "That's the fighter from the 20th universe," in which we see how Goku says there's someone inside of that iceberg, and based on its overall design, we can already tell who it is, as Piccolo says, that's Broly. And in which everyone is shocked because one of the tournament holders brings Broly in and saying, we found him frozen in the void of space. If he is still alive when his fight comes, he will participate. And one of the Namekians having to say, that is a very, very bad idea. And Goku having to say to himself, how could they bring such a monster here? And Cell looks a little intrigued because he's just there. He's like, huh. And we see how Gohan is saying, there are a lot of dangers around here. In fact, we have to be very careful. And in which we see King Cold, Cooler, Frieza, and the Ginyu Force. We see Majin Buu, Babidi, and Deborah. We see Bojack and his henchmen. We see androids 17 and 18. This is going to be a very deadly tournament. In which case, we see how Oob says, it's like you know everyone around here. In which Goku says, no worries, most of them are really weaker than us now. And in which we see how the ring announcer says, all of the challengers have arrived. Now we must randomly select the fighters that they matched up against the others so we can go on ahead and participate in this tournament. And we see how Goku says we will reconnect the legendary encounters and we will go on ahead and reenact those fights. And in which we see from the megaphone someone says the first fight will feature Nappa from the Universe against Kargot from Universe 10, in which we see it's a Namekian versus Nappa. And what's weird is they step on this giant ball and we see how the ring announcer says may the fight begin, and we see how Nappa is fighting against the Namekian, and we see how Nappa is pretty much toying around and taunting the Namekian and saying, I've slaughtered your people in my universe, you are gonna perish, in which the Namekian says that's not my concern. And they're engaging in this very, very intense fight, and we see how Nappa pretty much gets the best of the Namekian, in which case Gohan says, this Nappa is way stronger than the one we fought, in which Goku says yes, but it's also apparent that he is quite old too, and in which Piccolo says the Namek is strong too, he is a warrior, in which we see how Nappa knocks him down, and in which the ring announcer says Nappa is the winner, and the next fight is Frieza from universe number 8 against Jeice from universe number 8. So that right there was a shock because we get to see how Jeice is like, wait a minute, we can even fight from the same universe? Like, how does that make any sense? And Frieza looks back on him, and Jeice is just terrified because he's looking at him and he's just puzzled. But then we see, okay, next match, Son Goku from universe 18 versus Mishu from universe number 10. And we see how Goku goes up, everyone's saying go Kakarot, except for Vegeta and saying that's not even a warm-up. So we see how Goku encounters this ancient Saiyan, and Goku having to say, you're a Saiyan? And the other Saiyan having to respond by saying, I'm not talking to a renegade with no tail, in which he insults Goku by saying you're not really a Saiyan because you don't have a tail, in which Goku says, no need to use your full strength on him, well maybe just a little, but he really isn't human, so let's just use a little bit of strength, because Goku knows that he's gonna slaughter this guy, in which he does, because Goku pulls off a Saitama and punches this Saiyan one time in the gut, and we see how this Saiyan goes flying off the ring, through the wall, and down to the ground, and Goku having to go to him and saying, are you okay? And the ring announcer having to say Goku wins, and everyone is shocked as to how much pressure he added onto the Saiyan, and everyone is shocked, including Prince Vegeta from the other universe, in which he says the lowlives began to understand that they are really overpowered, in which he talks about the ancient race, because remember, every single group here is different as opposed to the other, but nevertheless we see how the Saiyans are dominant until we see the Namekians forfeit, in which they forfeit the battle, in which even the Saiyans say yes, we do too. So there are specific groups that forfeit the tournament, and then Goku goes back to his group until Vegeta comes by, which is King Vegeta or Prince Vegeta from the other universe, in which he says, so you met the pathetic version of the Saiyans. We are the Super Saiyans and I am the future winner of this tournament, being very cocky and saying, disregarding your ridiculous clothes, you're the closest group to us as you have Kakarot with you, but a Namek, I guess you had a weird time of fighting Frieza on planet Namek, right? In which Piccolo says, I think we diverged that before. Your Kakarot wasn't sent to Earth when he was little, was he? In which, in this universe, Vegeta explains to our universe that during that time they did send Kakarot there, in which Kakarot says, I killed the humans and the others picked me up 10 years later. Then we went to Namek to find the Dragon Balls like there was on Earth. And that's when Goku says he killed all the humans. And that's when Piccolo says, and Kami too most likely, in which King Vegeta or Prince Vegeta from that universe says, on Namek we found and destroyed Frieza. I discovered the secret to the Super Saiyan there. What about you? And that's when our Vegeta says, huh, we were better. Funny, I killed Nappa on Earth, and in which the other Nappa is like puzzled by this. He's like, what the hell? And we see how Trunks is saying these primitive Saiyans will be very disappointed by our fights because we're stronger than them, and which Vegeta even says the funnier thing will be is the fact that I have the privilege to kill Frieza again. So the Saiyans from this universe are so arrogant and so cocky, and in which Kakarot's standing there and he says, well, these two are from Earth too, pointing out Goten and Trunks, in which both Gohan and Goten look at Kakarot and says, you want to be shocked? You want to be shocked? You are our father. And Kakarot is just like completely blown away, and that's where the manga chapter cuts off as we go into manga chapter number 2. So lots of tension, lots of drama, lots of back and forth bickering between the universes, because we see how in some universes there are surviving Saiyans that are very overconfident, very cocky, very arrogant in what they do. Some Namekians gave up because they realized there was no point in fighting. We still have Majin Buu, Cell, Broly, everyone is still alive. Most fighters are stronger than the others, but post your comments down below, guys. What are your overall thoughts on the interaction that took place between the Saiyans, the ancient Saiyans, the Namekians, Frieza, Majin Buu, the Kaioshins? What are your overall thoughts on this particular manga chapter? Did you guys enjoy it? Did you guys hate it? Post your comments down below, guys. Thank you all for watching. If you guys are Dragon Ball fans, don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to the channel for more news, information, and updates. If you guys enjoyed the video, go ahead and slap a like down below. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing each and every single one of you guys down in the comment section below as we head into the second chapter of Dragon Ball Multiverse. Take it easy, guys. Peace!